I first started experiencing symptoms when I got pregnant with my son. I conceived and immediately had a burning sensation in my right breast. Nothing seemed to help other than putting a hot compress on it. That's kind of where my symptoms began, and the burning would happen every afternoon. You see every provider possible when you're pregnant just because you don't know who's gonna deliver you. And the practice that I go to has multiple doctors and midwives. So I saw 4 providers and they all kind of told me the same thing, that this could be hormone related. It's most likely my ducts coming in, getting ready for breastfeeding. They would do a manual breast exam. We couldn't find a lump. And then they would just say, just keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like the heat compress is helping and it should ease up the further along you get into your pregnancy. It did not ease up at all. So I would bring it up every month at my appointments, and they just said breast cancer doesn't hurt. So typically if someone has burning pain, it's not likely to be breast cancer, but mine obviously presented in a different way. It wasn't until the ultrasound that we started kind of learning what this could be. Right before I had my son at 9 months, we had another ultrasound done, and it looked like the cyst had not grown at all. It still was perfectly circular. Breast cancer is not a perfect circle usually. So that was kind of a relief when I saw that on the radiology screen that, okay, whew. I was about to give birth to my son, so I just kind of put it to the side and thought I will deal with this later. And it's just a cyst, there's nothing I can do about it now. My son Finn was born December 9th, and the burning pain stopped right away. So in my mind, I thought, oh, well, it was my ducts coming in and it was hormonal, but I was on the schedule to have a follow-up ultrasound to follow that cyst. And as soon as the ultrasound tech turned on the machine and started moving her wand on the area where the cyst was on my breast, her energy completely changed. She got very serious. I could tell something was wrong right away just by her body language. It was HER2 negative and estrogen positive, which means it's easier to treat, and a much slower growing cancer. So yeah, I had some pretty devastating news, but then as you read your pathology report, you start to educate yourself on what these things mean. So we did get some good news, that same day that, okay, it's early or it's a slow grower and we can treat it, and this is something I'm going to beat. I don't fault anybody for missing it or not diagnosing it earlier. I don't think they could see the cancer on the first ultrasound. We think it was already there, but it was hidden above the cyst, kind of like tucked up in the nipple. So, looking back, I'm almost grateful that I didn't find out I had breast cancer during my pregnancy. I was able to I loved being pregnant. I really enjoyed my pregnancy, and I'm glad that I had that, and then I can deal with this later. Things happened very quickly after the diagnosis, and it can be very scary and overwhelming, but I just followed the process and I felt like they were steering me in the right direction. We just kind of got on this roller coaster. That's what it feels like, is like you boarded the craziest roller coaster and you're just along for this ride. After the lumpectomy, they determined it was only stage 1. So they removed the sentinel lymph node plus an additional lymph node under my arm, and the cancer had not spread there. So that was a huge relief. But then they had to go back in and remove my nipple after all, which was a little bit more painful than the first surgery. And it's been kind of a long road healing that. I didn't have to have a mastectomy, so I'm grateful that it was just my nipple. I've had to kind of go back into quarantine because my immune system's a little compromised from the chemo. So I feel like I'm back in full quarantine again. We're keeping our circle a little bit smaller. But yeah, it's been challenging, especially with a newborn, managing, okay, I'm going into the appointments. Andrew's in the parking lot with the baby. That was very cumbersome and hard on us as a family. My son, he's 7 months, almost 8 now, and he just keeps things light and fun, and we're always laughing because of him. So I really feel that joy and laughter in the house just keeps me happy. If it weren't for him, maybe we wouldn't have discovered this cancer. Me being pregnant, in a way, I feel like he saved my life. Cancer does not discriminate. It is a ruthless disease, and it can happen to anyone. A lot of times I think we get dismissed because of our age, that we're too young to need mammograms. And time and time again, you hear about young women under the age of 40 getting breast cancer, but they were too young to get their annual mammogram. I just think we need to push a little bit harder for answers if something doesn't feel right.